Astral Aegis, written by Sylvac. Chapter 14, Blueblood.
Hey, what does the word rabble mean?
I don't think this is the best time for you to learn new words, madam.
Oh, just tell me its definition already, Silver.
I'll tell you later. For now, I suggest...
Citrine, tell me what rabble means or I won't be so nice to any of you recruits for tomorrow's training.
I ordered, pointing a hoof at her, causing her to let out a squeak. Citrine tried to answer me, but could only let out a bit of nervous nonsense till Dusty piped up.
It means a mob, madam, in a rude way.
This caused me to turn my head towards this stallion that insulted all of us, who was talking to Celestia after she distanced herself from our group to speak to him.
Okay, I don't like him.
I finally said after a few moments of silence. Madam, while his choice of words are poor, I must inform you that the stallion speaking to Princess Celestia is Prince Blueblood, her nephew. Golden Sword said.
Do you think I honestly care about the relations this prince has with Princess Celestia? Did you forget that I wanted to hit her face earlier?
Well, I was assuming that it must be some kind of joke.
Not a joke.
You can't be serious about intending to harming the
Already threw a chair at her face.
I declared, receiving the mute silence from every pony around me.
Yeah, so no pony is safe from my temper.
Before any pony could gather themselves to respond, the two members of royalty returned to our little group of gaping mouths. While Princess Celestia was giving my recruits a curious look, Blueblood cantered towards me as he said, My apologies, Dame Aether. I wasn't aware of your status nor that of the ponies accompanying you in their future role in the defense of Equestria. Tilting my head, I was speculating on just what those two were talking about as I replied.
Apologies accepted, I guess?
For a moment I saw part of his cheek tensing before Celestia asked. Aether, while I understand your desire to return to Ponyville to continue the training of your recruits, I would like it if you and your recruits were to accompany Prince Blueblood and I for some lunch. I believe we have much to discuss. I was about to open my mouth when my stomach decided to betray me with a rumbling of its hunger. With most ponies casting me an amused look, with the exception of Dusty, who had a vague look on her face as a bit of drool slipped out of her mouth, I gave out a huff.
Fine, we can stay for lunch, but I demand that I have chocolate cake for dessert.
I have no objections to that, Celestia curtly replied. Lunch was looking to be an interesting one, if only to judge by how every pony is reacting to having lunch with the princess. With Celestia seated at the head of the table, Blueblood and I flanked her side, while Golden Sword was seated next to Blueblood, with Silver Shield to my left. As for the rest of the recruits, they took their own seats, though Dusty was a sight to see with so much food piled on her plate. Though I was still surprised at Blueblood's sudden politeness, there was still something off with him to me that I couldn't figure out. There was something to the tone of his voice as well as something wrong with his eyes.
So, I have heard that Twilight is teaching you how to teleport. Has the spell been troublesome for you?
Celestia asked as she sipped her tea.
Spectacularly awkward. I may have a knack for magic, but teleporting is quite a problem for me.
I solemnly replied as I munched on some lettuce. Celestia simply hummed her acknowledgement, to which I assumed she drifted off to think on something. Dame Aether, there is something of which I am curious. What was the cause for your particular selection for your initial military force? Blueblood asked.
Huh? What do you mean by that?
I replied, cocking an eyebrow at him. Well, wouldn't there be other ponies more qualified? He asked, his eyes darting in the direction of Dusty, where he briefly flashed his disgust at her somewhat dirty appearance.
Can't say if there are others. Every pony here are the volunteers that have chosen to stay after my first set of training exercises. At least those tough enough to make the cut, though.
I replied, only for him to nod with a strange look in his eyes. There goes that eye thing again, but there's something familiar about it. I just can't remember what it is.
I have to ask though, what did you mean by more qualified ponies?
Well, wouldn't you search for ponies more like yourself?
I don't think that is possible.
I dryly said before I tilted my head with curiosity.
Just what did Princess Celestia tell you about me?
My question shook Celestia out of her thoughts, but before she could respond, Blueblood answered. Why, she told me that you were instrumental in preventing a horrible tragedy from occurring in our fair nation. That despite your age, you have shown a valued insight into unknown matters that no pony has ever dealt with before, hence why you are part of a new specialized branch in the equestrian military.
You don't say.
I simply replied, my eyes drifting to Celestia as she averted her own eyes away from any pony.
I have to ask then, do you believe in aliens?
Aliens? I have never heard of this alien thing before. Would you care to explain?
That is tough to explain.
Aether, I do not mean to interrupt, but there are some things I would like to make sure you are informed of concerning your duties. Though this is something that must be kept secret from most ponies. Blueblood, my nephew, would you be a dear and entertain the rest of our guests? Celestia interrupted. As you wish, Auntie. Blueblood answered, glancing at my recruits before a slight shiver passed through his body.
Wait, what's going on?
I tried to say before I was suddenly whisked away via Celestia's magic. This is not yet the time, Dame Aether. We must attend to these matters immediately, Celestia replied as she carried me out of the dining room. Once outside, she gently lowered me to the floor, casting a spell on the door once I had a moment to balance myself. Aether, I'm sorry for my interruption, but there is something we need to speak of in regards to my nephew, she said as she turned her attention back to me. Looking at the glowing door, I figured it was some kind of silence spell that was placed upon it.
Okay, so, what's the issue with your nephew, and why didn't you tell him everything?
I asked as I gave Celestia a bit of a hard look. Celestia sighed. Blueblood means well when he applies himself, but he often doesn't think his way through things thoroughly. As to prevent an issue, I chose to inform him pieces of the truth that would put you and your squad in a better light for him. It's just a matter of making this experience with him more pleasant for both parties. Scrunching my muzzle as I thought about Celestia's explanation, my eyes brightened as something finally dawned on me. Now I know what's wrong with his eyes. They were the eyes of an empty-headed fool! This realization caused me to narrow my eyes at Celestia as I replied.
So, basically, Blueblood is an idiot.
Aether, don't insult—
Blah blah, don't care. His eyes had a look of the stupid fool, though it took me a while since I hadn't seen those kind of eyes since my former life. Anyways, I get your point. I'll play nice with him to avoid hurting his simple feelings,
I nonchalantly said, waving my hoof around the entire time I was talking.
Let's just get back in there. I want to get my cake so we can get this lunch over with.
Turning around before Celestia could say a thing, I opened the door, which cancelled out her silence spell as I caught the end of some conversation that was going on. Your commander to be a unicorn, for no other pony from the other tribes would be able to lead as effectively as a unicorn could. Looking at the scene, I saw some of my recruits were obviously miffed at whatever Blueblood was saying to them, but what I caught was enough for me to simply just stand there, staring at the prince with shocked eyes that slowly turned into ones filled with rage. Blueblood then noticed that Celestia and I had returned, turning his head to greet us only for the sight of my fury to stop him in his tracks.
Princess Celestia, my recruits and I are leaving now,
I grunted as I opened the door wider.
Everyone, say your thanks to the princess and head out. I want to be back in Ponyville as soon as possible.
Dame Aether, why are you leaving so soon, and what has caused you to be so angry? Blueblood asked with a look of confusion on his face. Taking a deep breath, I said through my teeth,
Before I answer that, can you repeat to me what you were telling my recruits moments earlier?
I was only saying that unicorns are the best natural leaders out of all the was all Blueblood managed to get out before a chair engulfed in a silver aura smashed into the back of his head, knocking him out cold. My actions, of course, caused every pony to gape at me as usual, with the exception of Celestia, staring at the scene with shrunken pupils.
Stop staring and get moving now, every pony!
I yelled, causing all of them to scramble and run for the door, else risk facing my wrath. Turning to Celestia, I said,
I don't care what you think about what I have done. Just fix those ideas that your idiotic nephew has, or next time I meet him I'll smash a table on him instead.
I then stormed out of the room, snapping my tail in anger. It was when I was finally sitting down on the train as it was heading to Ponyville that I was able to calm down somewhat from the lunch incident. During the entire time, none of the recruits said a thing, just following behind me in fear that I might smash something on their heads for the slightest annoyance. Madam, are you alright? Silver finally dared to ask, noticing that my mood was finally lightening up. Though I only gave him a grunt, causing him to pursue his concerns. Madam, your recent outburst has me worried. I never saw you that angry before.
What? Do you expect me to react kindly to a pony who's
I finally replied as I tried to figure out how to explain racism to these ponies. I think the word you may be looking for, tribalist, is that why you're so mad?
Pretty much. Don't know how it is like here, but from where I come from, most high-end aliens are rather tribalists. Few species on top, many species on the bottom dying out. Blueblood's kind of thinking is the sort that can lead to a similar fate, when he should realize that in the end, all ponies should be treated the same with no regards to what tribe they are from.
I answered before turning my attention to one of the train car's windows. Though from the corner of my eye, I saw that some of my recruits were looking at me differently. Guess they like having some pony in charge that doesn't think in such a narrow-minded way. Yeah, we don't really like racists, so thank you Aether for smashing him into the ground. Hope you do it again some other time. But yeah, I'm still a little sick. Thank you all for watching. I hope that it was bearable. And yeah, join the Discord. It's now down in the description under all of the episodes of this story. And yeah, come by and let's talk a little bit. Until we meet again in the next episode though. Bye bye!